All right, so apparently I'm live again. I'm still live here with the people that are here. I appreciate y'all. Appreciate anybody building. Try to get the best part. Okay. But yeah, let's try to get to what I was saying though. I was saying something, but what I was talking about was the diversity of the palette. The palette. Okay. For me, the palette is very crucial to one's understanding. You know, when we build in any kind of subject, in this justice curriculum plus lesson that I wrote and have taught for years, is really about reminding yourself, not about particular subjects that you have to, right? And being a Renaissance man, right? Right, God? Gregory wrote Renaissance man, right? But also the idea that you have to have your palate challenged so you can see the details of life. You won't really know how great, let's say, a certain musician is if you really haven't heard many musicians. You won't know how broad your palate is if you haven't tasted some of the greatest foods. You know, and for example, this happens often with you know, people that go vegan. They realize that there's a whole litany of foods that they have never tried. Like, for example, the wide variety of different rices there are, right? Yeah, God. Yeah, God, just email me and I'll send you that, okay? Just throw me an email, you know, saying just that, and I got you, God. All right, because those some of the plus lessons are ready to send out. Some of them are just editing. All right, and I get that to you. That's what the ones I haven't sent is because I'm trying to edit them and fine tune them a little bit more. Some of these are written in, you know, 10, some 18 years ago. You know what I mean? But just a quick survey of these subjects: hygiene, music, news, and of course, news. This is where we definitely need a wide variety and palette, right? Science, right? And science is a whole, you know, that's the most broadest palette that we need. Health, training, okay? Because sometimes brothers don't know how they're gonna train, right? Email me. My email is sunias97@gmail.com, okay? I don't send people stuff unless they email me, okay? And that's peace. You know, anything you need, Allah Preem, you know? But yeah, email me, you know? All right. Uh, okay, so 6 was training, identity. Sometimes we don't study the development of identity, you know what I mean? And how it mars people, how it confuses people. And of course, now, you know, with everybody being what they would like to be and not being what they actually are, that also, you know, in the what I like to call the trans real reality, you know, in all respects, you know, we're in the trans real era. Um, Identity is something to study, you know. All right, so I'm back on the YouTube as well. Okay, I set up a stream now, so it'll be part 3 of the class session, right? So identity, the 8th, 9th, and 10th subjects. 8 is pedagogy, the science of teaching. 9 is talent, and what I mean there is your talent. Peace, God, universal. You know, just email me. Okay, so I need that reminder. Okay, um, and I want you to get at me and you know, demand things. That's what you need to be doing with your teachers that teach you the knowledge of self. You demand things out of them, and you go out your way to make it so they can give it to you. Okay, you go get that knowledge. Okay. The 9th thing in this justice curriculum, though, is the development of your own talents, though, trying new things. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of things I'm trying. Like right now, for me, it's trying new musical instruments and learning them, you know, um, and even possibly, you know, composing things. Yeah, that's how you got to be real hip hop. But and the 10th is love. I wrote love because that's something we have to study. How we deal with our relationship of love, how we will engage this world. You know what I mean? And with that said, what I'm really trying to say is also the study and the elaboration and the expression of your humanity in all things. Okay. I just gave it though. It's sunez97@gmail.com. Okay. All right. I just wrote it down there. Scrolled a little bit above. You know, I know it disappears on the Instagram, but yeah, sunez97@gmail.com. You know what I mean? And of course, if anything, for you, if you're on the IG, you could just DM me, and I would give you the information of that email or anything else, or a question that you might have or something like that. Right? Okay. Calm Islami. I don't think I've ever seen that name logged in here. Peace. Okay. Real hip hop. You're gonna bother me all night on that, aren't you? So that's the justice build. Okay, just reminding you. You know what I mean? Sometimes you have to vary your palate, though. Sometimes you get stuck on certain things. You know what I mean? Right. All right. Peace, Don Perignon. All right. Peace. Peace, Lord. I'm sincere. Right. Okay. What was the other? Okay. Now, a question for the students that have been learning here for a while and been learning the Living Foods Protocol. I gave, a good session for a while. How have people done with that? How have people worked with that? You know, some people wanted to change their diet to a vegan diet. I've been vegan since 1996, off dairy since 1993, pork free since 1994. So even before I got the knowledge of self, I was already dealing with that. You know what I mean? Okay. Well, Calm Islami, that's a good place to be, is Dark Kim's channel. You know what I mean? He gives content every single day. Um, and a wealth of knowledge and understanding. You know what I mean? That's big bro right there. Okay. That's big bro. Okay. So when I wrote the Living Foods Protocol, it's a way for you to transition. So that way, not so you all become vegans or some corny thing like that, and not know what you're doing and just starve yourselves. That's the way I did it though. But in 1996, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was just being rebellious, and realizing that I didn't feel good with what I was eating. You know what I mean? Who knows? I may have not gone vegan at such an early point if I just knew a little bit about nutrition and knew how to eat the wrong foods in a better way. You know, if that makes any kind of sense. You know what I mean? That's right, Gregory. Yeah, definitely. You know, and Gregory, you have an email. I think you have an email I haven't answered, so I got to go back in the emails and go through them. That's right. Dark Kim is definitely the guy. Right. What else we have here? Yeah. So in the Living Foods Protocol, I'm not going to go into that whole protocol. It's a long protocol, but it's mainly structured on these things. Acknowledging the mentality of your diet, though. In other words, are you eating just because what tastes good? Do you eat like something good every now and then you mainly eat what tastes good to you, right? Or are you actually dealing with what is the mentality? Like, what do you intend to use this for? What are you going to do with this? You know what I'm saying? What do you intend to do, with this diet? You know, is it being looked on as fuel, or are you living to eat, or eating to live? Right. So the mentality of the diet and how you and your perspectives is crucial. All right. And I go into more detail, of course. Right. And I give the ideal living diet. And I talk mainly in this plus lesson about the elimination for detoxification in basically 4 parts. So you have actually 5 parts. Um, the last being pretty easy, but something that is not acknowledged too much. You know what I mean? Um, First the meats, right, and doing it in stages. What possible replacements there are? What are the negatives in the replacements? The second is dairy, right, and the replacements. The third is condiments, right? How we replace our condiments, sugar, salt, mayonnaise, butter, all that. What's the detriments in them, and what are the replacements? You know, and then the fourth is the process, because we want to get rid of as many things that are processed and packaged, and definitely the most altered of the processed and packaged. Okay. And the fifth, I added this on, is tap water, unfiltered water. You want to have some kind of filtered water, even if it's your basic breeder filter. That's such a step up from anything that you're having. Okay. And then, you could always get into your details of alkaline water and all that, you know. And then I gave in this plus lesson a beginner vitamin supplement list. Some of the easiest immediate vitamins to use, right? Like vitamin C, your good teas, and I named some more teas, but I just put green tea as a starter. It's a beginner list. Your B complex, your omega-3 fatty acids to add on with, right? Chlorophyll powders, I'm big on that. Protein powders, right? And I even had wrote here for those who are really working out and stuff, the creatine monohydrate, though, although that is very processed, though can be vegan, very processed nutrient / supplement, so it's not always necessary. Okay, so that was the living protocols build. So I summed it up. Let me see what some people are saying here. That's right, God. No universal, no processed foods, but sometimes some things are healthier, even if they are bagged or boxed. So some things can be healthy. So you want to read everything. Technically, when you buy vitamins, even if they're vegan and stuff, that's a processed food. That takes massive processing to make a vitamin. You know what I mean? And soursop is good to drink. Let me see some of these comments here. I appreciate that, Real Hip Hop, on the Justice Bill. Thank you for that. All right. Okay. Okay, Sirius, you definitely want to email me so I could give you that protocol. Trying to work that protocol is probably one of the best, is the way I wrote it, so you can start using that protocol. Okay. And one of the best ways to start is not to say I'm going to be vegan and this is it, but to use it as a detoxification diet until you're more comfortable. And comfort doesn't just means that you are comfortable getting rid of certain foods you like that are not good for you, but that you are actually comfortable, that you are actually replacing foods with actually great, strong foods. All right. That's real important. I cannot stress that enough. All right. So, okay, so let me see the comments in the stream. Real Hip Hop said I structure my diets and carbohydrates and proteins and eat throughout the day with raw foods and lean meats. Okay, I'm not with the lean meats, but I understand you're using. This is what I meant by, if I could be harsh here, using the wrong foods correctly, but in a correct manner, in a more correct manner, in a useful manner, right? Because not everyone is going to be vegan. Not everyone is going to get out there. You know what I mean? And those are good. Those are good oils to take. Black seed oil, elderberry syrup. Good supplements. And those would be supplements that wouldn't be processed, by the way. I mean like a vitamin or something. But that comes with the education of the consumer, which what I was talking about in the plus lesson. When you see it, you'll know what I mean when I talk about the details of knowing. When you look at the plate of food you have, can you identify when you look at your food, say that white rice is a simple carbohydrate, that red rice is a complex carbohydrate, that tempeh is a quality protein, right? Or know that the tempeh is a quality soy protein and that the soy protein bar is a trash protein, right? Knowing your differences in soy and being very limited and only dealing with organic, unprocessed soy and never using soybean oil. That's trash, right? 13 students said shouldn't taste good. Food shouldn't medicate physical composition well. It's kind of a statement in the middle of stuff, but I would say that food should taste good. I don't think I want to eat stuff that doesn't taste good. I don't last too long. Lord Sincere, that's your email. I will not take it down. I have everyone email me, okay? So Sunez97@gmail. I'll identify it. Email me, and I will email you what you're asking for, and some other things. Okay. All right. I need people to email me so I could just go into all of it though. Okay. With the amount of students I have, I just can't possibly get into all these emails by trying to remember emails to send and collect the emails. Let me see what else. Shouldn't taste good. Food should medicate physical composition well. It should. That would be ideal. That's right, Sirius. Thank you for that. Okay. Definitely water and green tea, of course. Cortland Powell said, I replaced some salt with broth and green olives or things like cream of mushroom or cream of chicken soup. Okay, I'm not a fan of the chicken, but that sounds good. You know, a lot of times people have trouble with salt. And since we mentioned that condiment, you want to use your sea salt. Pink Himalayan salt is the best quality salt I've ever had for the trace minerals. But you also don't want to use too much salt. So what you can do is you can lace things like lace your salads with some salt, but also lessen the salt and add some lemon, lime to it. That would be the effect of, let's say, olives into, if you like it, which I do, into your foods, or olives into your salad and stuff, you know. Real Hip Hop said my weeds contain a good amount of omega-3s. Okay. Yeah, that's right. Supreme Nature. That's what I'm talking about. I'm just reviewing, see where people are at and what they've added on. I'm really looking for what you guys have added on. Okay. Gregory added the vegan digestive enzymes. If you just want to have something tasty that has digestive enzymes, you can have kombucha. I love kombucha. You can have that, right? I wouldn't. Kosher salt isn't really like a non. It's a non-starter because something that's kosher doesn't mean it's healthy. You know what I mean? It just means a rabbi said it was peace. And you don't buy music like that. You know what I mean? Just because somebody else said it was peace. Right? So you wouldn't want to buy food like that. You know. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, but if it's salt, you want to start with sea salt, obviously. Right? Himalayan salt is definitely the peak, right? And again, no matter what you replace your condiments with, you still have to, right? Is that quinoa with rice or quinoa, right? Because there's no such thing as quinoa rice, right? But quinoa with rice, right? Definitely. There's a much, a much better thing. Now cipher means no in the supreme alphabet, right? Right. Okay, sounds good. 793rd. Okay, yeah, sounds good. Definitely, that's the thing. Yeah, canned goods. You got to be careful, right? Because canned goods often preserve their foods with salt. That's the problem, though. You know what I mean? Like cured fish. Salt is one of the easiest and cheapest preservers of food. You know what I'm saying? Right. So, with that said, I'm glad that I've gotten some updates. If people have questions that they want to ask now, um, also the last one that I want to talk about is they go hand in hand is the Build Awareness Square Plus lesson, where every student, I immediately give them this plus lesson where you're going back into doing the knowledge to 5 things that you do. So we're dealing with the knowledge of self, right? What are those things that we are checking first within ourselves, right? And the first will be what you're eating. The 5 things in the Build Awareness Square are what you eat, how you train, what you read is supposed, as in what you do the knowledge to. 4, how you write. In other words, what you write, what you're saying, what are your ideas, what are you expressing, right? And 5 would be your share. How are you sharing? the nature by which you share. What are you sharing? You know, what are you keeping? What are you not? How do you share with yourself? So these are all the 5 things in this build awareness square, the things to take notice of, right? Before we could talk about a knowledge of self, we have to actually spend time and knowledge what we are actually doing. Okay? So vitally important. Okay? Okay. What's the Oh yeah, and the last thing is a focus on that. When I talk about how are we building, and the most important thing, if I could say, is like what we're asking of ourselves, is what I like to call that triangle of power. T.O.P. What is your triangle of power? Okay. And by the triangle of power, I mean the 3 things that, first off, I named it after the Wing Chun focus, right? The triangle being the base is your body, and the power comes through those limbs, and they form a triangle, though. So that center line is hit through that triangle of power. But basically, let me see if I look it up here, because you know what's funny? This is one thing that I've written, and I re-articulate it every time, and there's no need to. Okay. Okay. So the triangle of power was originally the read, write, and train. Okay. Trying to see where I had articulated it perfectly, but to no avail. All right. But yeah, it was basically in my triangle of power, I focused on what I do. So it began as read, train, right, and write. But what it really means, right, is not just those particular things, but basically what is what is the strength, what makes up your power, right? In other words, what are you actually doing the knowledge to? What is your study? How do you train it? And then how do you create? Okay. So when you're evaluating yourself and you're judging your triangle of power, you're judging what? What are the things that I am studying? How am I training with those training with those materials that that I've studied, right? Right? And then how am I expressing that? How am I creating with that? Okay? So it's really a 3-pronged thing. So when I ask you how are you developing your triangle of power, um, this is what I mean. Okay, this is exactly what I mean. And Dark Kim is right though. Don't get caught up in speaking coded language though. You know. You know, one thing that is a rule when you're building, when you spell something with the alphabet, or you spell something, or you say something, when it's broken down though, does it mean something? Does it add meaning to it? Does it give you an extra insight? Because if it doesn't though, then it's just useless slang. And it's cool to use. But if it doesn't add an added insight to it, then it's right now for you individually, you are playing with it. Okay. Kwati said, when you say sharing, should one be sharing publicly or sharing with one self-sufficient? Not sure if that is really a complete question. It's not no, it seems like a complete question, and it's a good question. In your build awareness square, that plus lesson, which is an early plus lesson for you, is a development. Sharing, I mean, with you, but also acknowledging that whether you say I don't know what to share, so I keep it within myself, you're still sharing by what you do and what you say, and by default, you know what I'm saying? By default, you were definitely going to share. So, there's no way around that though. So are you sharing wrong by default? You know what I'm saying? And let's say 52, universal 52, that's a good thing, good thing, right? Okay. So Okay, so I went through the plus lesson that I've been teaching over the last couple of weeks, though. What I'm going to do now is go through the word is bond plus lesson that I literally am in the middle of writing. So see how things get created. Okay? So, and how my thought process has gone in this, though. Okay? Some parts I might try to conjure it up right as we go along because there's some parts that I meant to write out and I didn't get to write out. So, you know, so here are some burgeoning thoughts, but I want you to immediately start thinking about how you will use it. And of course, it'll be finished over this weekend. But this plus lesson, I had thought of it because everyone says word is bond. To me, the show and prove of every year that we have is based on word is bond. And yet we don't really detail it too much. In fact, when we detail it, it's almost like word is bond, our word being bond, our word given being given as a bond is almost like just something to do so that way we could prove that we do that. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like um it's almost like we're Boy Scouts, you know, and we're just collecting things, you know? And that's not really the depth of that word is bond. Like it has so much more of a profound existence in our reality. Okay? So let me go through some of that. All right. Okay, that's good, real hip hop. That's what you should be doing. That's good. Okay, so I called it. By the way, again, the lesson was brought about because of the show improvement and just the not the knowledge day being the the date of the class right before it. So I thought it was perfect, but because of the technical difficulties, I wasn't able to really proceed with it. You know, and it only made me realize that I had more and more to add to it. So I called it Word is Bond, a targeted approach. And again, this is preliminary, so I'm sharing um, definitely set insights about something of in a preliminary lesson. Word is Bond, a targeted approach to application, because I want you to think about applying this, though, actually living out your Word is Bond, and what is the usefulness. Okay, right? You said, but your words are the manifestation of life. Oh, certainly, certainly, and that's why we're going to go into this in detail. All right. So obviously, the degree, quoting the degree for those that don't know, have you not heard that your word shall be bond regardless to whom or what? Yes, my word is bond and bond is life. And I should give my life before my word shall fail, right? Now, I wanted to give you a quote, and I put this quote there just so people can analyze it, okay? Um, in the book, Intellectual Warfare, I don't know if you could see that because I don't have book Intellectual Warfare, which I'm showing all backwards, which looks terrible. Intellectual Warfare by Jacob Carruthers. Which, you know what? I'm gonna do a quick search to see its availability, and just so I could copy and paste the name of it, because this is a book I don't have digitally. Right? And as I go through the process, as I'm in flux, like I'm literally adding on to this plus lesson as we go along, you can see how the thought process is when you start to make yours. This book is no longer in print from what I'm seeing, though, but it is available on YouTube. There's a couple of used copies in the 20 to $30 range, and absolutely worth the price. I've never seen it digitally anywhere, even like a maybe even a PDF of it somewhere. Yeah, never seen it anywhere like that. But so in one of the last essays, I think it's the last essay, it's really talks about wisdom a lot. You know what I mean? So it always became something that inspired me endlessly. But there was a quote here I just wanted to that is, let's see. trying to see the origins, because this is basically quoting the meta nature. Okay. And on page 282, he quotes an aspect of the meta nature, and it says this, a statement about regarding statement regarding the epistemology of thought. That is the theory of knowledge, right? Regards to methods, validity, scope, and whatnot, right? And absolutely, absolutely, right? And we're going more into detail about word is bond, Lord sincere, because it's about the activity. It's about the activity of saying what actions will we put a word to and make it bond. Okay, we have to break this down. So I'll start with this though. It says here, the seeing of the eyes, the hearing of the ears, and the sniffing of the nose report to the mind, which makes every understanding come forward. As to the tongue, it repeats what the mind has planned, thus all divine powers were created. For every divine speech came about through what the mind planned and the tongue commanded. The mind planned and the tongue commanded, knowledge, wisdom. Okay? Thus all labor and all crafts are made. The actions of the hand, the motions of the legs, the movements of the limbs, according to this command which is planned by the mind and comes forth on the tongue and creates the performance of everything. Thus it is said of the Creator, He made and created the principles, and from this everything came forth, all good things. Thus the Creator was satisfied after He made all things. That is all divine speech. Okay? So this is his translation from the transcription of the Meta Nature in Breast's The Philosophy of a Memphite Priest. That is quite profound. Okay, that's page 282 of Intellectual Warfare by Jacob Caruthers. Okay. All right. Now, the reason I read all this though is because the idea here is this. I've always said this: if you cannot articulate what it is that you think you know, then you don't really know it well enough. If you cannot articulate what it is that you need to go find out, then you are impaired. Okay. And so all of these things are important though in how we continue. So now, what is the word is bond? These are just preliminary ideas I wrote. The word is the articulation of thought, the wisdoming of the knowledge when that knowledge is that true and actual idea. The word is bond is a pact of desire charged by will. That's all I wrote there. Okay. And right now, this plus lesson has more to put in there, but they're mainly a section of bullet points of ideas, and it intends to go deeper. The first thing I wrote was perfecting the word. Okay. And I said simply, the word is the truth you live. Therefore, there must be practice in expressing the truth against any and all adversaries. The greatest adversary to the expression of truth is within one's own mind. Okay. In other words, this. I keep saying that supreme mathematics are the principles by which you live. But if you don't spend time putting those principles into words, like what is knowledge to you and how is it a principle? In other words, how do people violate your knowledge? How do you uphold knowledge? How can people violate your wisdom? How do you uphold wisdom? And so on and so forth. You go through all the degrees. You know what I mean? How can people violate your equality, your power, your culture? And then on the other hand, how do you what? How do you uphold it? Okay? There has to be a detail of it, or else you wouldn't really consciously, it has to be consciously thought of. Okay? So another bullet point in here is, does anybody have any questions on that? Is that making some kind of sense? Mr. G once said, I keep my word is bound down to the molecule. All right. Okay. All right. All right. That's peace. All right. So here are some ideas. Okay. These are not builds particularly. All right. Man, guillotine. All right. One of hardcore's finest. Ideas on mathematical principles that make the word. Okay. So here are some ideas. These are not details, complete details. These are ideas when you look at the mathematics, though, and how they relate to the word, okay? And the word is bond, okay? Because I'm talking about the word is bond as an idea. Word is bond, an idea, okay? So with the knowledge, when your foundation is of being a creator and realizing that if all else fails, that you really are the creator, then the truthfulness of your idea, that knowledge, is the core of the driving wheel that fuels the word is bond. What does that mean? What that means is this, is that every time your word is bond is an automatic reality. You see, we worry about giving the word is bond, but we also have to realize that for us to say that we're the creator is that it's an automatic bond. All right. It is actually what it is automatic. It is automatic to every single creative idea that comes up each and every moment. Okay. And that your life is based on the idea that every single true word of insight that comes across to you as knowledge, whether it be something you find or it be, and more, even more importantly, the what you create, the idea, the true and living idea that you have, that is actual fact, that idea must be lived. And so your word is bond is an immediate pact with that. Okay. When it comes to wisdom, we're looking at the usefulness of things, the usefulness of knowledge. So when we look at the usefulness of the word, right? How useful, how relevant, humane are your endeavors? You see? In other words, when you take that knowledge and you use it, what is it? These endeavors, are they becoming a reasoning to how often and to what make your word bonded to? In other words, this, right? And that's a fragmented idea there that I have to articulate better. But just to riff on this now, a lot of times we don't look at the possible when we say our word is bond, right? Oftentimes we're judging what is it that we have to do. So all of us are used to giving our word is bond to something that we can see, a wisdom that we can forecast in our head. I say, oh yeah, I can do that. So yeah, my word is bond to that, right? But what happens to the thing that you ought to do, but you cannot see that relevance, you cannot see that usefulness, you cannot see that humanity, right? Then now we can start to see that maybe that word is bond is being, we are giving that word is bond to things that are not actually going to be real wisdom. They're not actually going to be a usefulness of real knowledge. They're just basically keeping our social status up. Okay. Right. And definitely words have authority, depends on how it's used. Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. And when we look at understanding, I always say understanding is a revelation of purpose, right? And so now when we look at word is bond, it's very similar. Word is bond is something that continues to be seen as something that is given. Okay. But what happens if now every time you have an understanding that is yours, you're giving your word is bond to that because you're willing to share that and create things based off of that understanding. You see? So now your word is bond to it, though, regardless to whom or what. You are living and dying by that understanding. Okay? And so it has to be tested. And it better be strong, right? And is one's, so we look at the degree, right? And going down in degrees, just ideas and expressing it in there, right? When you say your word is bond, my word is bond, right? It is part of the culture, right? When we say word is bond is a culture, what do we mean by that? Right? Word is bond is our culture. It also means that there are daily activities of what you intend to be that you fulfill. The first overt word is bond that you give to the world, though, is often expressed in your name. I always say that the name is the name is your name. Your righteous name that you choose is basically an articulation of what you truly see yourself as and what you intend to be, right? So if I said my name is Sunez, the Sunez Allah, Savior of the universe now, shows and proves the equality of zigzag zig, knowledge, wisdom, understanding, then that means I intend to just be true and living, Sun is, but I also intend to share the best of what I have, right? And equality, the most profound insights that I've had and come to a balance and proper position with to others, though, in whatever form that I can, via knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, right? So your word is bond is that name first. That name is your first word is bond, or one of the first word is bonds. I don't want to be definitive here on that. You know what I mean? I definitely don't want to be a definitive, but that certainly isn't it. You know? Right, Darkim. Yeah, word is bond does not mean swear to God. Many bring that concept with them from the Christian world. That's right. That's right. A lot of times we also say word is bond, like, yeah, we use it like a swear, like we're absolute truth and stuff, you know? But it usually only has validity if we say, yo, my word is bond, like, yo, word is bond, that shit was true. Only if the person's was consistently bond. You know what I mean? If his word was consistently bond. If his word is shit, then he's done. Right? And some other notes I had here regarding power. I always say power is propulsive influence, right? And when we look at power and we look at the concept of word is bond, right? A lot of times the strength of an individual, though, is really the frequency by which they can actually bond. You know what I'm saying? In other words, this, right? How often is that person's word is bond, right? How often do they fulfill the things that they have set out to fulfill? So what are the people that we respect in that way? The people that consistently create creation, the people that consistently create things, the people that consistently make, the people that consistently provide forums, the people that consistently share with the youth. These are the people that increase their power through their word is bond, right? And the more power that goes into word is bond, the less that it is uttered. Okay? No matter what, that's a fact. The more that the word is bond has power, the less it is uttered. Okay? Right? When we do equality, I like to say equality is the proper position. That once that understanding is lived as a culture, it's out in the world. And then once it's out in the world, right? Once it's out in the world, then what happens, right? Does everybody hear me correctly here on the YouTube? Right? I have all the signals here. I don't know if I lost anybody, right? But once it's out in the world, right? Okay, that's good. That's good. Yeah. I just obsessive now with sound checks, so I'm just give me a. Okay, that's good. That's good. All right. But uh once we have extended our culture, right, and it reaches a power, the person that is really powerful, though, their word is bond in such consistent fashion that you can see the elements of where was the bond made in their actions. So when you look back at supreme mathematics, right, look at the power of where your word is bond is. Where in the reality of all your actions is that word is bond made? In other words, is the power of your word is bond by public pressure? Where does it happen? Right? Where is it happening? Is it happening because you're supposed to or because you want to? Or is your word is bond so consistent and so consistent through your principles and what you're achieving in living out your principles that it just is. It just will be bond. There is no point of you know uh, of where you have to accept it. You know what I mean? Where you have to, okay, I have to do this. I have to go do that. You know what I mean? And I'm saying we're talking about after the point something is actually has to be done, or it ought to be done, or we're talking about your own creative process, creating things, right? So this is important, right? This is important, and keeping the word is crucial. And mind you, it'll become difficult. You know what I'm saying? Even I myself, I have at least two pieces to work on that people have asked for, right? And that I'm thinking off the head that I intend to write, and people have asked for them. You know what I mean? And my word is bond, so they expect them. I never had to say, word is bond. People expected them, right? They put me in a position to make them just because, right? And then now, if we continue with these ideas of mathematical principles to the word is bond, when we look at the God degree in the mathematics, though, I always like to say that the God in the process of supreme mathematics is basically um, is a as a rejuvenation of reaffirmation. You don't become God again in this process, but your own actions of creation are rejuvenating your by via reaffirmation. It's reaffirming who you are, right? So the thing about it is, when you look at your word is bond, the word is bond that you make with what you'll do, your daily activities, though, the things that no one else knows. Are you doing them because they will reaffirm you? Are you doing them because they will rejuvenate you? Right? So sometimes we also have to look at the word is bond personally. What is the personal word is bond? A lot of us look at things like, I'm going to learn, I'm going to study, because we intend to be powerful and potent to the outside world. But what about just being potent for us, though? Right? And this is important, right? It's important. Some loose thoughts on build. I wrote here, the state of building is universal change. The word is bond is a declaration that you'll be a leader in change, not just a consistency of effort. Okay. A lot of times the word is bond also means daring. That's why I said that the youth, they are the best to have this nouns, because they have that combination of not only learning to preserve what is true in this knowledge of self, but also willing to innovate new ideas based off of it, you know? And the youth, the more daring individual, is more willing to engage into this type of word is bond, right? And fulfill that. Begin the born. You know what's interesting? I was thinking about this all week. There's definitely an add-on that wouldn't have been in last week's class if I did teach this developing plus lesson. Was that I had that born is something that is fulfilled. It is done when we talk about born. And so when we look at word is bond, someone's word is bond being fulfilled and born, we oftentimes are looking at word is bond as a future reality. Like, your word is not being bond because you care about bonding it. Your word is being bond because, excuse me, let me see something here. All right, your word is bond because you care about the outcome. In other words, the final statistic that your word is bond. And look at this is what I had said. There is a care for the future if the word is bond is important. If the future is an illusion, one's word being bond would be unworthy. People tell you to be in the past, to be in the present, that the past is gone and the future isn't here, so you're always in the present. But there's now with word is bond, there's an awkward concept here, being developed here. If the future is an illusion, then one's word being bond would be unworthy. We worry of the future that will affect the next present moment. In other words, we worry about the future, right? Because the future is the next present moment that we don't intend to be seen as a person whose word is not bond. Okay? So we are making declarations about the future. So the word is bond is your first practice in writing your history in advance. Okay? just want to write that down because some of this I didn't say. I didn't write down. And of course, please stop me if there's something confusing in what I'm saying. Right? I'm going to answer that question in a minute. Walk with a vision. We worry. Okay, what is the nature of the individual as his word is in a state of being bonded, in the state of always being of a bonded nature? What do I mean by this? Do you see yourself having your word as bond because you do not want to be seen as a person whose word is not bond? Or is your word is bond, no, because this just is the nature of you, that you are going to complete things? All right. All right. Unfortunately, I was gonna answer a question in the IG, and it just like ditched. You know, Instagram is evil, man. They just kick you out when that hour runs through. All right, so let me look at the any questions here about anything. Okay, I appreciate everybody doing an analysis of the build. Um, let me just tap and write this that way. Okay, so let me get back into this. Everybody hears me good? That's good. All right. My apologies for doing sound checks every couple of minutes, right? You know, it must be, you know, payback for all the criticisms of soundmen that I've had over the years. What I'm saying is this, right? The biggest problem with word is bond is that people are giving their word is bond though so that they look like a good individual. So they look like they're principled. And this is a big problem. It doesn't show where it really should be. Okay. Now I'm going to go to another part of this bullet points of this plus lesson is the practice of the personal bond. Okay. So the first thing is to apply word is bond to the BAT plus lesson activities. In other words, what word what word have you made bond with how you're going to eat that you've said to no one, but you're going to do it, to your training, to what you intend to read and study, to what you intend to write, create, build, and to how you share with other individuals and to yourself. Well, will you share with yourself, right? The other thing is this: the practice of the personal word is bond is also in creativity and or expressive works in art. See, the thing is though, one of the facets of this classroom though is to develop your greatest, you know, excuse me, is to develop your talents and to engage creative arts as many as you can. Not just be thinking like how, not just the creative arts that you'll be able to monetize. And unfortunately, that becomes the only thing that we tend to find value in is the creative arts that we can make into a product and monetize. That's not enough. Okay, that's not enough. That's not good enough. And if you see yourself as a creator and there aren't any creative endeavors that you're going to give your word to practice, to engage in, what happens is you're not being a creator. You're basically being an advocator of the creator. Okay, and that's important. There's no way around it. You know, you can knowledge 120, you could build, you could do all these things, but if there was no creative outlet that you dove yourself into, then it just cannot be said that you were a creator as an actual thing. So how do you give your word as bond to the expressive arts, to the expressive works? How you will express yourself. This is important. This has to be thought of. Okay. So the bullet point I didn't build on and didn't write anything on, but I put this as a bullet point here. The difference between breaking the bond and readjusting the plan to fulfill the bond. Now, this is going to be expounded in another lesson that I have written years ago called the Interactive Planning, Volume 1 or Part 1, because I always thought there could be more, but I didn't really get to it. Or I didn't see that there was enough to make another part, but I thought there would be. But a lot of times we see this personally, and it'll start personally with ourselves, right? Because the word is bond that we break to others is usually something that has to be dealt with, how we'll be viewed, right? We could have bonded ourselves to something totally unrighteous, and we have to break our bond, but other people won't understand it. That's a different type of problem. But the bond that we have for ourselves and how we break them, you know what I'm saying? This is something that I want you to be alive for. I want you to have the mettle, the METTLE, to look at yourself, see yourself breaking your word is bond. Okay, or else you'll never really understand what are the facets that put you in that weak position to falter. Okay, but then at the same time, though, did you give your word is bond to something that is completely unrealistic and cannot be achieved? So are you? Is it the ultimate goal, or is it the plan that you are readjusting? So these are some things to think about, because sometimes the quality of the word is bond is something to be engaged in. The quality, right? The quality of choices, the quality, right? All right. And again, I just summarized some of them in what I called the what I just all that I spoke about. Your word is bond themes, mainly three. Okay, but there's plenty more. No, actually, there's at least four that I have here. Right. So you have to yourself, particularly the principles one upholds daily, how they are expressed. Right. The truth is that everything that you do and everything that you react in such a way, they ought to be articulated in supreme mathematics. With that said, then that means that you're giving your word as bond to that. I will be that. Every time you say that, giving your word as bond without those words, right? Then what are your word is bond to your loved ones? How you will deal with them, how you will build with them, right? Some people are like, oh, if they don't get the knowledge and don't deal with the way I'm dealing with it, then I don't have no word is bond to them. That's really not how it works, right? Then there's to one's professional work, to one's personal work, the arts, your job, everything. What extent is your word is bond to these people, right? To these things, to these endeavors. And of course, though, in general, to humanity. And of course, that's crucial to us because we say we're poor righteous teachers. If you were saying you're a poor righteous teacher, then you've given a word. You've given a word is bond, okay, to the world, right? And now I think I'd like to add more as I think of them, but I have two exercises to perfect the word, okay? See, one of the things that the word is bond is rooted in is not just that you can give your word to things, but also that the knowledge that you have is actually strong enough. Because the first word you're giving to is who you are, and you're saying you're the true and living God. If your knowledge is weak, if your understanding is weak, then your word is bond, no, isn't really going to be of any stellar result. So, one of the exercises that I talk about, though, is the inner debate. To have a conversation with the person, to have an inner conversation, it's all with yourself, with the person most difficult to prove an understanding you see, right? So that basically you pick a person that would be most difficult to prove an understanding you see. It could be any understanding. In the most basic being proving you're the true and living God to, let's say, your parents, right? As an example, right? You would think of what you would say to them, and then you would think of their counter, and you would have this inner debate in your own mind. You devise your opening statement, and then what their counter will be, following with your response, and on until you continue this inner debate as long as possible, as long as you could go. Okay. These are important exercises in many respects, but they're also important though in writing everything from an op-ed to being part, let alone being on a debate team. But they're important to develop the worth of your argument, of the worth of how well your insight is, how far reaching it is, and then also This will also help you in how you give your word to things, what you say you'll do, because you know exactly the facets of how you see yourself and the details of your understanding, right? And then scenarios, right? Scenarios, particularly for the word is bond, you make a list of all the scenarios and reasons you would give your word is bond for, okay? That way you don't get caught in a jam. In other words, you know what you're going to do and know what you're not going to do. The goal is to see how they attach to actual principles that you want to define you, okay? Sometimes we give our word as bond just because of the individual. She was really gorgeous and she asked for this, right? And sometimes we're giving our word to things that aren't really based on our principles, but there's basically our wants and desires to be fulfilled and for it to paint us as the individual of the caliber that is deserving of such reward, right? So this is a thing, right? Let me go back to the comments. I've been reading off a page, so I haven't been looking at the comments. Okay. All right. Okay, 2016 New Year's Eve. Okay, interesting name. Make It So Music. Interesting name. Adding on a lot. Justice comes right before King in the alphabet. So I see it as word is bond is subject to justice, and the action of word is bond is subject to the reward or penalties that come with word being bond. It is all things are subject to justice if they are done or not done, right? However, the most important thing though is that you don't always see the penalties. Okay, people eat the wrong foods, they don't always see the penalties though. All right, people's word might not be bond though, and you could always, the truth is that, let's be honest, you will give your word as bond and break your word with things that you shouldn't have gave your word to. Okay, right? So again, we have to know the criteria by which we judge things. All right. And real hip hop, that's peace. That's a good way of expressing yourself. SW is accountability, of course. True. Absolutely. Dark Kim said you have to develop the creative power in yourself. Modern society, I guess, is distracted by all the input from mass media, which cause our ability to output creatively. Yeah, create our ability to output creatively atrophies. Yeah, that's an actual fact, man. That's an actual fact. You know what I mean? Right? And even as you do a podcast, and again, I have two podcasts, right? I've done radios since, since 20 years ago. Not even 20 years, like almost 30 years ago. When we look at, even in the endeavor that you engage in, how are you judging the creative output, right? When you do a podcast, are you just speaking off the top of the head, or are you giving real insights? Did you work to have an understanding? This is important, right? SW, you said, what did I declare and my purpose of intent? Absolutely. So again, this is a working build, a working plus lesson that I'm working on. And you can see how many facets of word is bond and how much of an important part of our culture that it is. You know what I mean? And that's why I was making this plus lesson. It's so profound to me that it's becoming bigger and bigger as the weeks go on. So definitely, I obviously will not be emailing it because there's other parts that are going to write into it and stuff. And a lot of the plus lessons fluctuate over time, though. Like, for example, the Living Foods Protocol. As I learn better about diet, as I do all the time, or adjusting and maneuvers, I add those things in, So, all right. So, with that said, we're coming close to the end of this class. In its three part broken up measures. So if anybody has any questions, I said a lot of stuff, and I deliberately make it like a working build. So if anybody online has any questions about anything, thing that they would like me to answer or any type of build, please let me know. Um, I don't want to get into too much new, right? But here's some things to expound on as far as the ongoing homework. Ongoing homework, right? Where you make your list of criteria of what a law of the true and living God must have to be such. This is also an exercise as well, right? Why does the true and living God's word have to be bond? Why does that have to be a significant part of his nature, right? In the most profound things, right? For him to be the creator, right? And that's a real, kind of a philosophical bent on it, right? There's definitely a philosophical bent on that, right? All right. So far, does everybody hear me well? 'Cause I got to do another sound check because I'm not getting questions and stuff, which is okay. I'm not. You all don't have to answer. If we were in the classroom, I'd be forced you to answer certain questions about yourself, and so we could, delve deeper. Uh, oh, that's peace. That's peace. So if we look back, there's a lot of plus lessons that I have already taught, and a lot of things that I said. Right now, as far as the homework, since no one's given it, right off the top of the head, what do you think? And what I'll do is next week I'm going to go through some of these subjects. I'm just going to go into some of the criteria, but off the top of the head, as a student asking, what would be the most important subjects or bullet points of criteria that you feel would need to be proven or disproven to show and prove that the original man is God? For example, disproving that people's thought that God is in the sky or that he flies through walls, that he's a spirit, or to prove the true and living God is the true and living God through, let's say, the science of cosmology, right? Cosmology being the origins, the science of the origins of the universe, right? Right. So, which ones have you had problems with? Because you're supposed to have problems with them. They were really meant as a student assignment, not to answer, but to develop your questions. It's really not meant as an assignment of answering, but making questions. So if you say the study of cosmology, that wouldn't be a good uh, completion of the homework. What would be a completion of the homework would be, say, etymology. Excuse me, cosmology, and then say why you were saying cosmology is important. Why why I'm saying cosmology has to be proven, even if I don't know how to prove it. Like, right? So that's what I mean, though, right? So you would have this criteria because I came with this because as a teacher, I always knew that people were going to give me questions on all these things. So I had to look through and say, what are they going to ask me about? What are the possible things they're going to ask me about? And then I go work on trying to answer them. Now, mathematics is a heavy field, Gregory. So, what do we mean by mathematics, though? I mean, do we mean the history of mathematics? There's books on the history of mathematics as far as like its origins in Africa. I'm trying to remember a book. I literally remember the color of the cover. It's like a grayish melting gray. I can't remember the name of it. But then we talk about particular mathematical fields, right? Or books on supreme math. You know what I mean? Right. So real hip hop, when you say supreme wisdom, what do you mean by that? Right. The true and living God's word must be bound because it is upon wisdom the understanding is manifest. and God's wisdom is born. It's supreme math, so it's going to happen anyways. Everything you said, Cortland, there was good, but the last part, it's supreme math, so it's going to happen anyways. We could say that, but as the true and living God, I want you to always disagree with that. Okay? You said it's supreme mathematics and it's going to happen anyways. Your mentality should be like, it needs to be at all times. It's supreme mathematics only happens if I build, right? Only happens. Okay. Okay. I see what we're trying to say there. I didn't mention books on the supreme math. No. Dark Kim said, why does 120 tell you more from the Bible than it tells you about the Quran? See, that's a good question. Mathematics and the structure of the universe. To me, it's funny. I always thought it was because it was just Elijah's pedagogy. That's really why I thought. And Dark Him, yeah, I definitely see that. The best book to study supreme math is the one you're writing. Yeah, it really is. It's really in your journals. If you want to look at it as like a concrete page, it's really in your journals. If you're writing consistently, what you think every single day and going back and going forward, and it corroborating with those who are teaching you, right? Sirius, you are right. It's about the studies of knowledge such as physics and numerology, and that's part of the criteria. When we say, what is the criteria that makes Allah God? And the criteria that we have to prove. He speaks the language of the universe. Well, what is the language of the universe? Uh, Supreme math, right? Mathematics. I mean, we go through things like that. And we would study things like that, right? Of course, I wouldn't put numerology as it's a very loose science. You know what I mean? Very loose, to say the least, right? So you would make that criteria. If look at the plus lessons that I've been writing, look at the way I've been teaching. It's about making things that are basically assumed very, very outright and overt. It's about making things that are not detailed, concrete into words. You see? And to make things easier, we make things concrete like that. Okay? That's peace, Marcus, right? This is all relevant, right? All relevant. All right. That's right. The turning abstract into concrete. Okay. And that's also the way of creating things. Much of the abstract, if you look at the arts, right? And I'm saying this as someone who writes that way and also has studied the arts that way. The beauty of the word is that we can make it abstract and beautify it. But it's often beautified because it's easier to stay in the head as something beautiful, right? But as a teacher, you're doing the opposite and you're turning the abstract into concrete. So often, great art is really the concentration of great ideas and insights and understanding. But the teacher's job is to turn that abstract into sayings and vignettes of insight to those truths in a much simpler way. You know what I mean? So you can see the functioning, to rip apart the covers of things so you can see the functioning of certain things, right? And 2016 user, yeah, I was answering what Dark Kim asked, yeah, and I definitely see that because the Bible, people ready, the people ready were familiar with the Bible, so easier examples could be parallel in the language which people were familiar. Yeah, I think so. Serious is all said. It's all more about building layers about life itself, especially the life we live, through showing improvement ourselves as creators. So, if you want to see more about the Word is Bond Plus lesson that is in flux and developing, go back into this class session. Um, it'll be in the bullet points of the class session. It'll be there. So, All right. So, right. So, okay. So, if anybody has any questions, I'll take them now. In the last, we got 2 minutes left. So, if anybody has any questions, I'll take them now. If not, in this last minute, I'm gonna write down my email. I'm gonna, definitely ask you to review these sessions. And again, many of the plus lessons I built on, I'm still working on editing them. Um, Many of them were written years ago, so um, I want to update them. Um, and some of them I just had typos, man. Like that's irritating. So I got to take that out. So definitely, if you do not have the beginner book list and do not have a curriculum and a startup of a selection of books from me, like actual books to read digitally that you can have in your Google Books app, as EPUB, or in Kindles, Mobies for your Kindle and whatnot, PDFs and whatnot of said subjects. You definitely have to email me, because there are materials to this class that you ought to have. Even if you never ever attended the physical, even if you decide never to watch me on video again, once you're learning with me, that's what you're getting. All right. So with that said, we're at the 10 o'clock hour. This class session is over. Again, my apologies for the technicalities. I'm going to make sure that my microphone is plugged into a more consistent USB that doesn't, decide to go in and out. And that'll be taken care of easily, because I have the USB. I know which one to use. And we'll have this session in one complete bulk. And if you were on the IG and you go here, there was a brother walk with a vision that he didn't get his question answered. I hope he's on here and he can email me as well, and I can answer his question, because it was a good one, even though I don't remember it anymore. Right? Is the duty of a civilized person different than the duty of an uncivilized person? Yeah, that's one hell of a brain tease, Dark Kim. Right? And with that said, though, I'm going to copy and paste that and think about that for a while. All right? So peace to everybody. Peace to everybody that has honored me to come here and build. Contact me. Get what you want to learn, okay? And push yourself and make your word is bond with yourself first. And challenge yourself. Have failures, right? Word is bond. If you're not failing your word is bond with yourself, you're not really challenging yourself. All right? And with that said, I'm going to say peace. Until next time. All right?